They told us it was a relic. They told us it was a pet rock. They told us that in a digital world, heavy metal was obsolete. But take a look at your screen. As of this morning, December 21st, 2025, the price of silver has shattered every ceiling the bankers built, $67.40. On the charts, it looks like a party. It looks like just another bull market breakout. But if you step away from the computer, if you hang up the phone with your broker and walk out into the real world, you find a very different story, a story that the green candles aren't showing you. I spent the last 48 hours conducting an experiment. I wanted to test the reality of this price. So I picked up the phone. I called every bullion dealer within 100 miles of this city. I called the big online wholesalers. I called the small mom and pop shops tucked away in strip malls. And I asked them all a simple question. Do you have any 100-ounce bars in stock that I can pick up today? The answers I got didn't just surprise me, they terrified me. One dealer laughed. He literally laughed. He said, "Buddy, I haven't seen a 100-ounce bar in 3 weeks. I have some generic rounds, but the premium is $12 over spot." Another dealer sounded exhausted. He told me, "We are purchase only right now. We aren't selling until the wholesale market opens up. Try back Tuesday, but honestly, good luck." A third simply said, "Waitlist, January, maybe." Think about that for a second. The spot price is $67. The paper market in New York says there's plenty of silver trading back and forth. But down here on Main Street, the shelves are empty. This isn't a price rally. This is a bank run. This is what they call a dislocation. It ends the moment when the virtual price of an asset disconnects from the physical reality of the product. It happened to nickel in 2022. It happened to oil in 2020. And now it is happening to the most strategic metal on Earth. Today, we are going inside. We are going to expose the mechanism that is draining the world's physical inventory. We are going to talk to the dealers who are melting down grandma silverware just to have something to sell. We are going to look at the classified military demand that is stripping the market bare. And I'm going to show you the math, the terrifying math, that suggests $67 is actually cheap. If you are holding paper contracts, you might want to sit down. If you are holding physical, you might want to double check your safe. Welcome to the investigation. To understand the scale of this crisis, you have to talk to the people on the front lines. I went to see a dealer I've known for years. Let's call him Mark. Mark has been selling precious metals since 1998. He's seen the dot-com crash. He's seen the 2008 financial meltdown. He's seen the 2011 silver spike to $50. I walked into his shop expecting to see him celebrating. After all, inventory he bought years ago is now worth double. But Mark wasn't celebrating. He was stressed out of his mind. He pointed to the display case behind him. Usually that shelf is stacked with 10-ounce bars. Engelhard, Sunshine Mint, Britannia, bars that stack up like bricks of condensed wealth. Right now, he had three bars. And he told me he was holding them for a regular customer who was driving in from 2 hours away just to secure them. I asked him the obvious question. "Mark, why can't you just order more? The price is up. Miners should be selling. Refiners should be pumping this stuff out." He looked at me and said, "That's the disconnect. The wholesalers, the big distributors in Texas and Florida, the guys who move millions of ounces, they are rationing us." He called it allocation. It's a polite corporate word for rationing. It means the supply chain has snapped. Mark calls his rep, ready to place an order for 5,000 ounces, and the rep says, "Mark, I can give you 500 ounces this week. Take it or leave it." 500 ounces. That's less than one master box of Silver Eagles. That disappears in an hour on a Saturday morning. But here's the twist that really caught my attention. Mark told me about a new type of customer. It's not just the stackers anymore. It's not just the people preparing for the collapse of the dollar. Last week, a guy walked into his shop wearing a suit. He owned a small electronics manufacturing plant locally. He didn't want coins. He didn't care about the design or the collector value. He wanted grain, shot, anything pure. He told Mark that his industrial supplier had put him on a 6-week delay. He needed metal to keep his assembly line running. He bought Mark out of generic rounds just to melt them down. Do you understand what that means? That is the moment a commodity market breaks. That is called cannibalization. When industrial users, companies that need silver to build circuit boards, switches, and solar panels, start buying retail products because the wholesale market has failed, the system is in cardiac arrest. The retail market is the canary in the coal mine. And right now, the canary has stopped singing. So why is Mark's shop empty? Why are industrial buyers raiding local coin shops? To find the answer, we have to look 4,000 miles away. We have to look at the London Bullion Market Association, the LBMA. London is the heart of the global silver trade. For decades, it was the overflowing warehouse of the world. Billions of ounces sat in vaults under the streets of London, gathering dust, waiting to be leased out or sold. But something broke in 2025. If you look at the data coming out of London, it paints a picture of a hemorrhage. For months, we have seen massive outflows of physical metal. We aren't talking about a few bars. We are talking about thousands of tons. Where's it going? It's going east. It's facing a great migration. India has imported record amounts of silver this year. They aren't buying paper contracts. They are flying physical metal into Mumbai and Delhi to feed a solar manufacturing boom in a population that does not trust digital currency. But the real shocker is China. I pulled the inventory reports from the Shanghai Futures Exchange. This is the data point that mainstream news is ignoring. For the last 10 years, Shanghai was awash in silver. But as of this month, December 2025, inventories in Shanghai have collapsed to a decade low. They have fallen below 500 tons. China is the world's factory. They make the solar panels, they make the electric vehicles, they make the electronics. When their vaults hit zero, it's not an investment problem. It's a national security problem for them. They are now aggressively sourcing metal from anywhere they can find it, draining London dry in the process. And the bankers know it. How do we know they know? We look at the lease rates. The lease rate is the cost to borrow silver. In a normal market with plenty of supply, the lease rate is almost zero. But back in October, and spiking again now, lease rates in London hit annualized levels of nearly 30%. 30%. Think about that. Banks do not pay 30% interest to borrow a rock unless they are desperate. They are short physical metal. The people who own the paper contracts are standing for delivery, and the banks are scrambling to find the bars to pay them. London is running on fumes. Shanghai is empty. And New York is witnessing a slow motion squeeze. The Great Migration has moved the wealth of the world from west to east. And now, the West is waking up to empty vaults. But the drain isn't just about hoarding. It isn't just about bankers playing games. There is a fundamental technological force at work here that nobody priced in. While you were watching the Federal Reserve, while you were watching the stock market, a company in South Korea changed the world, Samsung SDI. They unveiled the holy grail of energy storage, the solid-state battery. For years, we were told these batteries were a decade away. But now, they are here. 9-minute charging, 600-mile range, a 20-year lifespan. It's the technology that finally kills the gasoline engine. But there is a catch, a secret ingredient. To make these batteries work, to stop them from catching fire, and to allow that lightning-fast charging, Samsung had to use a specific chemical architecture. It's called an Ag-C composite layer. Ag is the chemical symbol for silver. We crunched the numbers on this. Current electric vehicles, the ones running on lithium-ion batteries, use a tiny amount of silver, maybe 20 or 30 grams for the electronics. But the new Samsung solid-state cells? Estimates suggest they require up to 5 grams of silver per cell. A standard EV battery pack has about 200 cells. Do the math. That is 1,000 grams of silver. That is 1 kilogram. That is a standard bullion bar, melted down and put into every single car. Let's put that into context. Global silver mining produces about 800 million ounces a year. If just 20% of the world's cars switch to this new Samsung technology, just 20%, that demand would consume 16,000 metric tons of silver annually. That is 60% of every ounce mined on planet Earth. Gone into cars. And here's the terrifying part for the supply chain. Unlike gold, which sits in a vault and is resold, industrial silver is consumed. It is very hard to recycle from these complex chemical batteries. It ends up in landfills. It is lost to history. So, on one hand, you have empty vaults in London. On the other hand, you have a new technology that wants to eat 60% of the global supply. This is an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. The price has to rise. It is the only valve left to release the pressure. There is one more buyer we need to talk about. A buyer who doesn't care about the price, a buyer who doesn't report their purchases to the LBMA, a buyer who operates in the shadows, the Department of Defense. We live in a dangerous world. Geopolitical tensions are higher than they have been since the Cold War. And modern warfare. It runs on silver. We know that silver zinc batteries are the only power source reliable enough for guided missiles and torpedoes. They have a high power-to-weight ratio, and they don't degrade while sitting in a silo for 10 years. There is a statistic that has been whispered by experts for years, and it's becoming more relevant by the day. The Tomahawk cruise missile. Estimates suggest that the tip of a single Tomahawk missile contains roughly 500 ounces of silver. That is 15 kilograms. When that missile is fired, it does its job. It explodes. And those 500 ounces of silver, they are vaporized. They are turned into dust and scattered over the desert or the ocean. They are gone forever. This is unobtainium. In 2025, the USGS, the United States Geological Survey, quietly added silver to the critical minerals list. They didn't do a press conference. They didn't make a big announcement. They just slipped it onto the list. Why? Because they know. They know that you cannot fight a modern war without silver. You need it for satellites, you need it for fighter jets, you need it for missiles. Right now, stockpiles are being depleted at a rate we haven't seen since World War II. This is ghost demand. It doesn't show up on the supply and demand charts you see on Bloomberg or CNBC. But it is real, it is massive. And it is stripping the market of physical metal. This is why Mark, our local dealer, can't get product. The mints are being diverted, the strategic reserves are being refilled. You're competing with the Pentagon for the same 100-ounce bar. And guess what? The Pentagon has a bigger checkbook than you do. So we have the dealer, the vaults, the tech, and the military. But what about the people? I went back to the coin shop later that afternoon. It was busier. There was a line of 3 people waiting. I pulled one of them aside. A young guy, maybe 30 years old. Let's call him David. He was holding a thick envelope of cash. I asked him, David, silver is $67. It has doubled this year. Most financial advisors would tell you you're buying the top. Why aren't you selling? Why are you buying? He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, selling? Selling for what? Dollars? Have you seen the inflation prints? Have you seen the national debt clock spinning out of control? He tapped the envelope of cash in his hand. I'm not buying this to get rich in dollars. I'm buying this because I don't trust the bank. I don't trust the Fed. Silver isn't an investment to me. It's insurance. If the grid goes down, if the banks close, if the algorithm breaks, this still works. This is the psychological floor. This is what Wall Street doesn't understand. The stacker isn't a trader. They are price insensitive. In economics, we call this a McGiffin good, a strange paradox where demand actually increases as the price goes up. Why? Because the rising price validates their fear. It proves to them that the currency is failing. So when silver hits $67, they don't sell. They buy more. They panic buy. Back at the counter, Mark was counting out junk silver, old quarters from before 1964, for an older woman. He told me, I have people coming in with jewelry, tea sets, scrap. Oh, we are buying a lot of scrap. That's the only reason I have any inventory at all. We are recycling the past to pay for the future. I asked him, what happens when the scrap runs out? What happens when grandma's silverware is all melted down? He stopped counting. He looked me dead in the eye. Then, he said, we see what the real price of silver is. If you think $67 is high, wait until there is literally none left to buy. Wait until the premiums hit 50%. We aren't at the top, my friend. We are just leaving the station. The empty shelves at the local coin shop are a warning. They are the tremors before the earthquake. We are living through a convergence, a perfect storm. We have a technological revolution in Samsung's solid-state batteries that requires massive amounts of silver. We have a geopolitical crisis that consumes it in the form of missiles. We have an empty inventory situation in London and Shanghai. And we have a retail public that has lost faith in paper money. The paper market, the charts, the ETFs, the futures. They can print as many contracts as they want. They can suppress the price for years. But they cannot print metal. The vaults are draining, the mines are tapped out, and the shelves are empty. The price is $67 today. But the question you have to ask yourself isn't, is it too expensive? The question is, when the true shortage hits, when Samsung turns on those factories and the Pentagon refills those silos, will you be able to get any at all? This investigation is over. But the squeeze? The squeeze has only just begun. If you found value in this deep dive, do me a favor. Smash that like button. It helps us beat the algorithm that suppresses this kind of info. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update on the inventory crisis. And leave a comment below. Are you seeing shortages in your local area? What are the premiums like near you? I want to know the real data from the ground. Until next time, class dismissed.